Welcome, Pewter Report readers and listeners, to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. I am Mark Skook. Did I just say Skook? I don't know what I'm thinking.
I messed up my name before too. It's a tough last name. I mean, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot of syllables in Cook.
There's a lot of letters.
I'm Mark Smook, along with my boss, Mr. Scott Minnels, and John Redyard is also in the podcast as well. What's up, fellas? How are you guys doing?
Great. It's a Victory Tuesday. We got a Victory Monday pod in and now Victory Tuesday, and we've got tons to talk about today. And Bucs fans, if you're tuning in, you're jumping onto this live show, we're going to take your questions today. We've got topics, we've got things we want to touch on, but we want to make sure we're getting to your questions. So if you're jumping in the show and you've got questions, let them fly. If you want to drop us a super chat donation, we love those. We greatly appreciate those as well. Those are huge for us. But if you're jumping in here and you're like, man, this is awesome, you talking Bucs football, or we're live, we're doing this 4 days a week. You can go over to Pewter Report TV. You can subscribe, hit that bell, get the notifications for when we go live. We'll be live tomorrow at 4 p.m. and Thursday at 4 p.m. We'll be talking Bucs football, previewing a huge matchup coming up with the Saints. We've got a big matchup, so we got a ton to talk about this week. But today we're going to take your questions. So start thinking as we start talking, and drop your best questions in the chat, and we'll try to take as many as we can today. But definitely kicking off the show with some talking about and discussing this Bucs offense. What in the world? I mean, yesterday's first half, Mark, you weren't on with Scott and I after the game, so I definitely want to start with you if we can and just get some of your thoughts. Like, this Bucs offense comes out sputtering, as I did say, in fairness to them, I did say that I thought that would be the case when this game started, but sputtering and then built up in the second half. And most of the second half, really, they didn't finish drives in the end zone all the time, but they looked okay. Just your overall thoughts on the offense, Mark, and kind of what direction you see them headed in at this time.
Well, the good news is Ryan Suckup was 4 for 4. The bad news is he was 4 for 4, because that's
I can't believe you brought him up.
I can't believe you brought up
Ryan Suckup.
I thought we were okay now. Scott did the other
we're
day.
Okay.
I thought
he's making field goals. He's hitting 88%. We can say Ryan Suckup, Ryan Suckup, Ryan Suckup, Ryan Suckup all we want.
Oh,
we're
boy.
so screwed for the Saints game.
Yeah, and here we go back at home, and him kicking the game winner in the south end zone. Good job, Scott.
Oh boy,
not my fault. He's just been automatic. But my point is, that's 12 points instead of 28 points. It was okay because you're playing Daniel Jones and the Giants last night, but it almost wasn't okay. And it was a frustrating game, although you'd always kind of felt the Buccaneers were going to win, even when they were down 11 points at one point. I had people texting me, and I said, just relax, all right? They're probably not going to cover, but just relax. They're going to win this football game. Although I was a little nervous when they converted a 4th and 16. And I texted you guys in the group chat, and I said, Scott, the 97 to 2002 team, there's no way, no how they convert that in that situation. It just doesn't happen. And there was a couple other 4th down conversions or long conversions on that last drive that just shouldn't have happened. But, overall, it's a win. It wasn't a pretty win. That's okay. I mean, I thought it was going to be a 2-score, 3-score win easily, but they won, and now it's on to the Saints. That's pretty much my synopsis of it, because everything else has probably kind of been beaten a little bit as far as last night's game, and I think everything now is full throttle ahead for the New Orleans Saints.
Right. And Scott, one of the guys that they'll be adding is Antonio Brown. Obviously, will play this week against the Saints. Will be, honestly, at times last night, the first half, we were talking amongst ourselves in the Pewter Report group chat, as I was saying yesterday in the show, and it was kind of you could see why they tried to make the move for Antonio Brown. And then in the second half, I thought guys stepped up, honestly, and made plays. But still, this is a team that's going to add a dynamic playmaker in Antonio Brown, and hopefully maybe get Chris Godwin back. So as you look at this roster, they have carried 7 wide receivers in one game this year, I think, against the Packers. Obviously, this, one of your roster favorites, Cyril Grayson, this doesn't look great for him, adding Antonio Brown in terms of his chances of sticking around on the roster. But there's also the added layer of, okay, even if Cyril Grayson gets cut, which everyone expects, is this a team that's going to keep 7 wide receivers active when Chris Godwin's back? Or is somebody going to go down, and who wins the punt return job? Does Tyler Johnson, who kind of got his snaps cut into by Jaden Mickens last night, surprisingly, is he the inactive guy? How do you think they address the roster in the wide receiver position when Antonio Brown gets added.
Well, don't you think? Okay, don't you? Let me just add this real quick, and I guess we can talk about this. Mm-hmm. I posted a highlight video of Antonio Brown on the Bucs Monday mailbag. It's about a 15-minute highlight, and I forgot what a dynamic kick returner this guy was. I don't know, John. You know a little bit more about how often he was used in that role. The Buccaneers had Deshaun Jackson and would sparingly use him when they tried to get a big, needed a big spark. Ironically, against Pittsburgh in that Monday night game, Scott, that Chris Conte retired after. But and he returned it for a touchdown, but it was called back because of a penalty, if you remember. Right. But boy, that is just that dynamic, special teams guy that this team has just not had in years. If you want to find the guy touches, that's certainly a way to do it. To get him to kicks, to return some kicks. Now, you don't want it to turn into a Jalen Waddle situation like Nick Saban's probably kicking himself, having one of his best guys as a kick returner, then injuring his ankle a couple weeks ago. But I hope that they use him, because that's something I've been complaining about for 10, 12, 15 years, the lack of emphasis on kick returns. And I know it's different in today's NFL, but we saw Jaden Mickens have 3 returns last night, and he averaged 26.3 on those, which was great. He actually made the honorable mention on my most impressive list because of that. But that's a field changing type weapon that this team just hasn't had.
No, I definitely think that's the case. And when you look at Jaden Mickens, right, he's been a pretty decent return guy, and certainly was playing that Chris Godwin role. But John, I don't think that Tyler Johnson is going to be the guy that gets cut into. And the reason why is because if you look, a lot of times Mickens wasn't that guy that was being put in motion as that blocker. Like we've seen that Chris Godwin, will occupy in that role in the slot. Tyler Johnson was occupying that role in the run game, and he's a bigger body than Mickens. So believe it or not, even though Mickens had probably the most action he's seen all year in last night's game, I think Mickens could be the odd man out if this team believes that Antonio Brown can do punt and kick returns. He's just a better weapon, right? I think that we've kind of been advocating for 4 wide receivers and putting him and Scotty Miller and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin on the field at the same time. It is literally pick your poison. I mean, that is Tom Brady's dream scenario right there. And then for your other guy, is it Fournette in the backfield, or is it Gronk, in the slot, or as a flex tight end? Pick your poison, man.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because Antonio Brown he's a great return man. I mean, 4 punt returns, a kickoff return, and he barely was even used as a kickoff return guy in Pittsburgh for touchdowns. Dynamic in the open field, consistently got good returns, hardly ever dropped the ball, hardly ever took losses on returns. So he's the consummate return guy. Honestly, the only question always was, is he going to get hurt? And he's your best player. And now it's not that much of a concern. You're probably not even going to have him playing a full offensive workload. So absolutely, he should be the return guy as soon as he's got his feet back under him. And from that point, I'd agree with you, Scott, that Mickens needs to be the guy that sat down. We're getting a ton of questions here. Big Earn says this super chat is donation, which we greatly appreciate, is to upgrade Mark's camera.
No, you don't over there. You do not want my camera upgraded. Me and a little blurry. Now I'm saying, listen, this is a true story. I am using a MacBook Pro, a $2,600 computer. The company paid for, by the way, because if not, I would be on a Surface tablet. But I'm using it, and I'm using the HD camera, and I don't understand what the problem is. I will say, Scott, you were on the Loose Cannons podcast last week, or the last couple weeks, and I've been meaning to text Sammer and ask him what camera, if they use an external camera. That may be my next purchase, because it is beautiful. I mean, again, I don't know that you want to see me in HD.
We're going to need a few more super chat donations for that one.
Mark, you're on to it, and that's exactly right. We are going to use our super chat donations to upgrade the cameras for all of us. And so we're doing these now 4 days a week.
Gray in the beard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep. So
you want to be able to see that. Good question here from Alex Hodo. What is the identity of the Bucs offensive line? I can jump in on this one first, and we'll just quick hit it and keep going because we do have a lot of questions, but it's pass protection. The group is built for pass protection. Scott and I talked about this a little bit. I think it was yesterday actually on the show. They're built for pass protection. That's, there are a bunch of left tackles. Scott, you said in college, there are a bunch of offensive tackles. There are a bunch of guys who are built for pass protection, and they have the offense that's perfect for it, and they're doing an excellent job at it. They are not a maul, move you off the ball type of offensive line, and frankly, it is exactly how it should be, because in the NFL, when you build offensive lines like that, it has not typically worked out very well because you have to go to the passing game. You think, we mentioned Jacksonville a few years ago when Leonard Fournette was in his rookie year or whatever, but when they had to go to the passing game, things just evaporated and fell apart too often. And so that's why I think the Bucs offensive line is built perfectly, developed perfectly to have success in the modern NFL. They can do things in the run game. Frankly, I don't think the scheme behooves them very well in the run game a lot of the time. I think their best run plays come on these counters a lot of the time.
Breaking news. We got some breaking news.
Breaking news on the pod.
Just received word from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that the team has activated wide receiver Antonio Brown to the active roster. And they have waived. Who are they going to waive, John?
Grayson.
Who's they going to waive,
Tom Brady. Tom Brady.
No, Cyril Grayson.
Oh, damn.
Yes.
Well, Scott's wish came true.
It did.
Scott's wish came true. Hey, can I say something about the offensive line? I think, John, that this offensive line is capable of being a mauling top offensive line. I mean, Donovan Smith is actually, we see him 2 or 3 times a game where he just dominates a guy. We also see 2 or 3 times a game where he just completely whiffs and misses a guy. But I meant to send you the video last night. There was a play where Leonard Fournette got stuffed for about a 2-yard loss. And I just taped it from my phone, and I'll send it to you guys later, and I'll put it on my Twitter at MarkCook1970 or maybe the Pewter Report account. I have no idea what the scheme was on this, and I'm afraid the offensive line had no idea either. You had Ryan Jensen trying to block down to get to the right defensive end, and Donovan Smith is standing there with his hands up, just kind of like a safety net guy. I have no idea why. I don't know where Ali Marpet was going. I have no idea Ryan Jensen is trying to block down, and Donovan Smith did absolutely nothing. I question, John, you said that. I don't know that they schemed this very well. And they have a running game coordinator, a guy who that's his job, is to coordinate the run game plan every week.
Run game coordinator.
And I don't see it. And when Ronald Jones was breaking off 100-yard games, I would say 70% of that was Ronald Jones doing a lot of it on his own, to be honest with you. I don't know that it was blocked up great. So I don't know what that identity is. It's certainly a pass-first identity, but they can be much better up front running the football. And I don't understand that. Running, and Scott, you coached football. I coached high school and youth football. It is a mentality you have to have, that you're just nastier and meaner than the other guy. And we saw that with the Giants last night. Their 5 guys, including 3 guys who hadn't played much before, that just outwilled the front 4 or the front 3, and even the linebackers at times of this Buccaneer offensive line. And that was frustrating as hell to see, because this Buccaneer offensive line is better than they played last night as far as the run game goes. And the Giants are not as good as the Buccaneers, and yet they really were the better offensive line in terms of run blocking last night.
Yeah, and some of the big issues last night, honestly, in the Bucs run game, Joe Haeg. I mean, Joe Haeg has not been really helpful for 2 games now. He's out there a ton. They did finally pass out of formations where Joe Haeg's on the field, which is good. Right, but at the same time, you're taking guys out. You're talking about 2- and 3-man route combinations usually when Joe Haeg's out there. So I don't know that that's going to be a sustainable thing for the offense. But he had a holding penalty last night. He was consistently losing one-on-one battles. I felt like, again, Giants are a tough matchup because he's out there on the edge where normally you'd have an edge defender, a typical edge defender, undersized guy, and he's having to deal with guys like Leonard Williams, on the edge. So in the run game, the Giants are a really tough matchup because they play 4 defensive tackles. That's just really tough to match up against, no matter how good you are at run blocking. And they have tight ends that are blocking D tackles out there in the edge in this run game, and it just isn't effective. Cam Brake got chucked all over the place in the first half. He's just not. That's not what he does. And so to me, it was the Bucs. The way to beat the Giants in the run game is to get outside of them, because they don't have great athletes up front, but they have great power up front. They can handle it if you run straight at them, but the Bucs aren't a run game that goes outside. And so it was just kind of a game where I felt like they, to their credit, in the first half, I thought they used counter effectively twice. They don't run it enough. In my opinion, It's their best run scheme. And when they get somebody pulling and kicking somebody out, or even split zone, I think those are the best, when they get somebody pulling across the formation and provide a clear line of sight, a clear, defined gap for a guy like Leonard Fournette, who doesn't have great vision, to go toward, I think that's when they're most successful. They did it a couple times and it was okay. 5-yard gain and the 9-yard gain or whatever came on those types of plays. But when they tried to run straight ahead into that Giants defense, it did not work. And I think we talk about offensive weaknesses for the Bucs. Yeah. I think the run game is just not one that's going to carry you. I think that's totally fine, but I just think that's the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the running back distribution, this is what I pointed out in my SR's Fab 5, and you had it, the numbers in your snap count. I'm sorry, not the Fab 5, the 2-point conversion. You had it in your snap count analysis. This is the second week in a row that Leonard Fournette has come back and has just stolen carries and playing time from Ronald Jones. And it was crazy because Ronald Jones, up till the Raiders game, had 3 100-yard rushing games in a row. And then all of a sudden, last night, Leonard Fournette, 51 snaps in the game. And I was stunned to see Ronald Jones only have 17. I didn't realize during that it was that big of a discrepancy. And I know that Fournette's in there on third downs, right? He's replaced Shady McCoy in that role. But Mark, I mean, we've really seen Ronald Jones take a back seat to Leonard Fournette now, the second week in a row.
You knew as soon as he fumbled that ball and the Giants scored, his ass was coming off, which I get it, right?
But Mark, how many turnovers did the Bucs have last night?
One. They had one.
Ronald Jones. That's it.
I agree, but
hold on. Let's go back to Bruce Arians' his initial meeting with the media members, and you asked him the question. And this was about Jameis Winston at the time. How many interceptions are you allowed to throw in a game? And what did he say? What's the tolerable number? He said, well, obviously we want none, but
one. Yeah, he said if Jameis throws just one a game, we can still win football games. Anything more than that, you're hurting your chances of winning. Yep. But Ron, I mean, that wasn't a poor play by Ronald Jones. That wasn't him carrying the ball like great play like LaShawn McCoy. Yeah. And, the ball got tipped.
He never secured the catch. It's just a simple catch. I know the ball was tipped, but it goes right to.
He's going down on his knees. He's trying to get back up. I agree, and particularly in the field position, and players have to be cognizant of where they are on the field, right? Okay, at that point, both arms on the ball and crap. If you don't get back up and it's a 2-yard game, then it's a 2-yard game. You can't run the risk of turning the ball over inside your own 20-yard line. I do understand that. But I still 1,000% believe Ronald Jones is the best pure runner on this football team. I think he's better. He has better vision than Leonard Fournette. And I think it's just ridiculous, this doghouse that he continually gets put in. We saw that in Las Vegas, although Bruce denied it.
But he's putting himself in that doghouse. It's him dropping.
Jameis Winston threw 30 interceptions last year and did not get
and he gone
until the season. Well, you're right, he did. You're right, but there were games where he
viable backup. There's no viable backup. Now there is with Leonard Fournette, and that's the difference.
Well, I
do see it both ways. I see it both ways because I agree with you, Mark. Rojo's the best runner on the team. He's a better player than Fournette. I'd rather have the ball, but at the same time, the reality is the guy makes way too many mistakes, and he might be better than Fournette, but he's not good enough to keep giving chances to. And that's where I think Arians gets frustrated. Now, Arians is too short of a fuse. I agree with that. He needs to be patient with players, but at the same time, this is year 3 for Rojo. Like, eventually you can't drop drop as many balls as he does.
Every year he's gotten better. I mean, he's not going to be perfect. Every TV commentator in the history of a football game says the same thing. Guy throws an interception or guy fumbles, you go right back to that guy, right? You build his confidence back up. Not Bruce. He's off
Bruce
the field.
Arians.
Nope, you're done. You know what I mean? We'll throw you back in there when Leonard can't breathe anymore, bones sticking out of his leg. But until then, go sit on the bench. And look, that may have something to do with Ronald Jones inside the locker room, his practice habits. I find it hard to believe that you pull a guy off the field who dominated for 3 straight games for dropping a screen pass in Las Vegas and, for a awkward, weird fumble. But whatever. I mean, I'm not coaching this team, and they're what are they, 6-2 now? So they were 2-6 last year at this time.
Yeah. No, I mean, you bring up some good points, honestly. We got to move on, but Edward Brandon says we miss Godwin. First down play calling sucks. The cornerbacks played too far off and got beat inside in quick shots, also got beat in the flat. I do want to just mention these stats on the first down play calls.
Yeah,
I think the end of the game,
good find.
Yeah, the last drive of the game was like recency bias is one of the strongest forces in the world, and it sticks with us sometimes. And the last drive of the game, the Bucs ran 3 times on first down, but they only ran 6 times on first down in the entire second half. So this wasn't, the second half, what they did was they totally adjusted. They went pass heavy. That last drive of the game, like I said, they ran on 3 first downs. But they kept the drive moving because Brady was great on that drive.
But they had to. They were behind. They were behind.
Well, no, they were up at this point on that drive. This was the drive right before.
Yeah, once they got the lead. Yeah,
this was once they got the lead. So they're trying to run some clock. So I get the first down runs. They weren't successful. 2 and negative 2 yards on those plays. But overall in the game, they were pass heavy on first down.
But Bruce said last night, well, that helps establish play action. But statistics show, I don't know if it's your stat, John, or Taylor's, tell
them about the analytics.
Stat nerds, but I mean, the fact is, the analytics say, you can still be successful running play action because it just causes the linebackers, cornerbacks, everybody
still have to read
just for that split second.
As a linebacker, you got to read your key. That's the thing.
Absolutely. Yep. So forcing first down runs to set up play action later in the game, I think is just absolutely ridiculous. When you bring Joe Hagan on first down, and I mean, everybody in the stadium, well, there was nobody in the stadium except the people on the sidelines, but you understand what I'm saying. Everybody watching TV knew exactly what the play call was. And I tweeted it in the first half, another Byron first down run. And it's very frustrating because you've pointed it out, John, that, you can get, even if it's a 4-yard gain on a pass, maybe it's a pass to Leonard Fournette or Ronald Jones. That's an extension of the running game. The 2nd and 9s, the 3rd and 8s, those are so hard to convert, even when you have a guy like Tom Brady at quarterback.
Well, and hold on. I like your point there, Mark, about the quick passing game, and really the 2 guys that we've seen featured in that little smoke route wide receiver screen is Chris Godwin, and of course he was out, and then Scotty Miller, and I think that's where Antonio Brown, John, is going to make a big impact. You've seen it in Pittsburgh, and we heard that, Mark, today on the conference call with Bruce Arians. It's I think Jen Elaine asked him a question. How can Antonio Brown help your offense? And he said, we just need to we need him to be a playmaker, get the ball in his hands, and let him operate.
Yeah, well, they don't have a guy like that. That's the biggest thing he brings to the team that they don't really have. I mean, Chris Godwin will break tackles. He'll get vertical. He's aware with the ball in his hand, but he's not like an elusive player with the ball in his hands. And at least the last version of Antonio Brown we saw, he was a guy that the Steelers could get the ball in his hands because he made people miss. I mean, there really isn't anything about playing wide receiver that Antonio Brown has not done in his career at an elite level. So you do have to, if we're getting vintage Antonio Brown, if the Bucs are getting him, then you're talking about a player who is dynamic. But assuming he's not vintage Antonio Brown still, I still think that what he adds after the catch on the shorter routes, they haven't had that. And Brady, he will take it. If it's there, he'll take it. Sometimes you got to make a guy miss and make a play, and the Bucs really aren't built that way, and it's the one thing kind of missing from the offense.
Yeah.
All right.
Keep moving on because there are great questions here that we want to get to, but we want to get to some of these on the defensive side of the ball for sure, because there are some big topics for us to jump into on that side of the ball.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Yes, absolutely.
Interruption, but Mark Fisher is one of our super chat guys. He's having a little trouble with his computer, but he's donated his money, and his question today was, watching the game, did you guys all agree or disagree with the decision to go for 2 in the third quarter? First of all, you guys know I did. I thought it was the right move to go, right there, because 15-14 or 16-14 makes no difference. But you're right. You have to think this is third quarter. You've got to think, okay, in the fourth quarter, in a situation where if the Buccaneers had kicked that extra point, the Giants were down 9 at that point and would have had to score a touchdown. Then, the game's over at that point. So you can, I understand why they did it. I think one of the bigger questions to me was, did they make the right call not going for it on that last drive when they kicked the suck-up field goal to make it an 8-point game? when it's a half yard right there. That goes back to that Bears game, that question, what are we? Are we aggressive? I tended to agree with kicking the field goal because then you make the Bears have to go down I'm sorry, not the Bears, but you have to make the Giants go down the field, score, and get the 2-point conversion, which I didn't think there was a good chance of both of those things happening. Turns out it was pretty close to both of those things happening.
Yeah, I would have gone for it, but I don't think that was as bad a call. Honestly, I think we're questioning all these calls now, but they didn't go for 2 after the touchdown before their last field goal. So their last touchdown of the game, Bucs didn't go for 2 in that situation. And now should have the score pulled up in front of me. But if they had gone for 2 in that situation, I think it would have put them in a more advantageous spot throughout the rest of the game to be able to make a decision. It would have put them in a spot to go for 9, where it would have been a 9 or 7 points, if they didn't get it. So I thought that was where they should have gone for 2 in that situation.
If they didn't make it in that situation, then it is just a 7-point game, and we're in overtime last night, though. Again, it's all, backseat driving or
you know what? Every football coach
But if you do get the 2-point conversion and then you get the field goal on the next drive, which, it would have been an easy decision to kick that field goal and go up 9 is what I'm saying.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you're right.
Every football coach I've ever been around has, what I've seen and what I believe is you don't chase points until you need them. So you don't sit there in the third quarter and go for 2. If you need to go for 2, then you do it on your last touchdown of the game, per se, rather than trying to chase. Well, I shouldn't even say chase points, because what happens is if you miss it, then you are chasing points. You're chasing that missed field goal that you blew by not getting the 2-point conversion. So I think you get the extra points until you need to go for 2 at the end of a game. I don't think that you shortchange yourself and try to correct the score by the second or third quarter. But I mean, that's a risk that you kind of have to take, and guys, I took some risks at my bookie over the weekend, and I did not do very well. I did not do very well. Yeah.
Oh boy.
I did not.
Would it be related to the one Kansas State Wildcats?
That was one of my many losses. I also took the Bucs in the spread last night, and so took a little bit of a bath there on that. But you know what? All is right with the world. You know why? It's Tuesday, fellas, and we got another weekend coming up. Ever since I started doing this for a living, people always ask me for advice covering sports. Usually it's, who's going to win and what team should they bet on. I am not a professional gambler, nor do I like to give out that advice. But the one piece of advice I'm going to give you is I'm going to tell you where to bet, because honestly, that's just as important as who you're betting on. And that's why for 3 years now, I've told people to bet at MyBookie. And I don't just read these scripts and do this because they're a sponsor of the Pewter Report podcast. I do this because that's where I go to place my bets. They've got deposit matches, free bets, huge cash prizes for you to take advantage of all season long. NFL action, check. College football, check. Plus, they've got a mobile-friendly website, top-of-the-line customer service, making their platform the one-stop shop for all your betting needs. MyBookie offers action on everything from championship futures to NFL in-game live betting. And they're making sure that you've got every base covered every step of the way. Sign up today at MyBookie. When you do, use the promo code Pewter, Pewter. John, you're going to put that up for us? And when you use the promo code Pewter at MyBookie, they're going to give you a halfway match in your deposit. So that means if you put in $200, they're going to give you another $100 to play with. It's a bonus. It's right. It's free money. It's free money. It's free money, Mark. It is. It's a bonus designed to give you a little bit of help and a head start to your winning season. And the great thing about this is you don't have to start at the beginning of the season. You can start by creating your account at MyBookie today. And the great thing is with the promo code Pewter, they're going to give you a halfway deposit match. So if you put in $400, they're going to give you $200. Stacked UFC cards, presidential prop bets, all the major sports and more await you. Sign up today and begin your winning season exclusively at MyBookie.
Not my.
And we welcome everybody who's not
That's right.
MyCookie, but at MyBookie. Correct.
Right.
We welcome everybody who's jumping into the show and watching the live show here, and everybody who's listening to the podcast after we've been live. Y'all have been great. We have been so excited about the way this thing has gone with the live show, the Pewter Report podcast, going live 4 days a week. We've added over 1,000 subscribers in the last couple of weeks. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, and you're like, man, this might be worth checking out once or twice go over and subscribe, Pewter Report TV, hit that subscribe button, hit the notifications button to get notified when we go live. Check us out. Give it a chance. I think you'll have a lot of fun with us talking Bucs football. Tell your friends and family too. Everybody that you know that loves Bucs football, spread the word, send them this link when we go live. You guys are honestly as much a part of this as we are in terms of building this thing up. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build this thing into the best Bucs coverage that you'll ever see. We want to have every base covered. We want to hear from you. We want your questions. We want your comments. We want things you want added to the show. We want you to tell your loved ones. Tell your friends and family about the show. Send them the link. Remind them we go live. Y'all are a huge part of why Pewter Report has had an unbelievable year, an unbelievable success, and you're a huge part of why it'll be that way moving forward as well. And every bit that y'all can do for us helps a ton in that regard.
We've got Alp here from Turkey. Last night at midnight Eastern time, we're doing the show, and we had people from Australia, India, Brazil on the show. So it's awesome, not just to have this portal to you Buccaneer fans that are in Tampa Bay, or in the state of Florida, or even in the domestic U.S., but also around the world. And that's awesome to see. We actually, Mark, last night we had a super chat from India, and they paid us $100 in rupee, which is an Indian
100 rupee.
100 rupee, which was $1.30.
I would have preferred $100 rupee,
and
a groupie, but groupie rupee, it's fine.
Yeah, but it's pretty cool. It's really cool to have this platform and forum to talk with you guys, answer your questions, and let's get right back into it.
And absolutely. One other thing for people who are catching parts of this live, just remember, if you can't watch it live, we appreciate you watching it live. It's still available on all of your downloads. You can still download all of these podcasts, listen on the go. A lot of times, what I'll do is I'll if I'm a passenger in a car and I missed the show, if I wasn't on it, I'll watch the YouTube and play it through the car. Mm-hmm. So it's great sound quality. But of course, it's still on SoundCloud, iTunes, all of the major platforms as well. So anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Jonathan Stone asks a good question. Kind of denotes what we were talking about earlier. Why does Leftwich feel we have to run up the middle on every first down, let Brady rip it? And I was getting to these stats a little bit, but the Bucs in this game, honestly, they threw the ball more on first down than they ran it. 18 passes to 13 runs on first downs. Even if you take out that 2-minute drive before halftime, which was obviously going to be pass heavy, the Bucs still threw on 14 first downs, ran on 13. Now, it shouldn't be 50-50 in my opinion. It should be more like a 70-30 type of breakdown, or 65-35 at the most type of breakdown. That's what would be ideally optimal to me, obviously depending on game situation. But the Bucs were crazy productive on first down throws, and they went heavy first down throws in the second half. And it's the biggest reason why, other than Daniel Jones' mistakes and boneheaded plays, that they won the game. Leftwich changed his strategy. He only ran, like I said, on 6 first downs in the second half, and 3 of those were on that last drive when they had the lead and were trying to drain some clock. So he basically abandoned the first down run in the second half, and they were highly productive as a result. Most of this production that I'm about to read came in the second half off of first down throws. On first down throws, Brady was 14 of 18, 164 yards, averaging over 9 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns. 14 of those yards did come on defensive pass interference. They had 7 double-digit gains. The Bucs had 3 gains of 20 yards or more off first down passes, and the vast majority of those came in the second half. In the second half, they had 2 touchdowns, a 3-yarder and an 8-yarder off of first down passes. The 14-yard DPI, a 16-yard gain, a 20-yard gain, a 20-yard gain, a 25-yard gain. These are all first down passes. Wow. One of the big reasons the Bucs won the game is because they went first down pass heavy. They went play action pass heavy. I think Byron Leftwich, even though I don't agree with everything he did in this game at all, but I think he deserves a lot of credit for his adjustments in the second half. I think it changed the way the offense operated. From that last second half possession, they were field goal, touchdown, punt, touchdown, field goal to finish off the game. So 5 of their last 6 drives, scoring drives. Yes, I think there could have been some better things in the red zone by a lot of different people, and just outside the red zone by a lot of different people in the offense. But I think Leftwich honestly deserves more credit than he's probably getting. He's probably getting a little too much criticism. Let's put it that way for this game.
I was criticizing him last night a little bit, especially just running, into the teeth of the Giants' strength, which is their defensive tackles and Blake Martinez. Yeah. John, a quick question for you, since you're our resident Antonio Brown expert, having covered the Pittsburgh Steelers those years. Greg DeCruz, a good friend of the pod, asks, Do you think we will see AB coming out of the backfield on screens? Lord knows we have no running backs who can make people miss. Was that ever a gadget play that they used at because I've seen it before,
yes,
where you have a wide receiver. Did the Steelers ever engage in that and use Antonio Brown that way at all?
Yes, Antonio Brown lined up just about everywhere for the Steelers. And Greg, great question, and always appreciate you tuning in. You're always a faithful listener and asking good questions. And yeah, I think it's something I've thought about a lot, actually. So Greg is kind of reading my mind. It's like, because the Bucs running backs are so pitiful in the pass game, it's I'm almost like tempted to, like, what kind of solutions can there be out there, to make this thing work a little more? You got 4 wide receivers in the field. Can you put one of them in the backfield? And it's kind of like the Joe Haig thing. You have to be able to do multiple things off of it. Otherwise, you become predictable really quick. And so, yes, I think that it's possible to use Antonio Brown out of the backfield. It will need to be sparingly. Like, we're talking probably once or twice a game, I would guess. I don't know what all you're going to do with him, because at the same time, if you put Antonio Brown in the backfield and he's the only guy back there, everybody knows what it's going to be a pass. You know what I mean? So if you're taking a running back off the field, you just have to be prepared, and they're obviously going to be keying on him. So if you're trying to run a screen with him, I don't know that that's going to be successful unless you've done other things off of it. So you have to almost be creative in the way you use him. I would almost use him as a decoy in those situations more than I would get him in the ball. I just don't think anybody's going to fall for a screen with him suddenly in the backfield. Does he have the speed still for the jet sweeps? He's never been like a burner. It's never been Antonio Brown's thing. And so, he was not really a heavy jet sweep guy in Pittsburgh, but like I said, they've used him lots of different ways. They've asked him to do lots of different things. He's very capable, but I think more likely I would like to see some of the running plays replaced with some of those smoke routes and those wide receiver bubble screens and getting him the ball in those ways, because that's where, unless Chris Godwin's out there, those have been almost a wash for the Bucs this year. Yeah, and the running back screen game has been absolutely atrocious. The execution's bad. The timing's bad. The guys can't catch the ball. And even when they catch the ball, why would you want to prioritize in this offense with all the players they have? You cannot prioritize design plays to put the ball in your worst playmaker's hands. Fournette, Ronald Jones, they are not making people miss. They are not finding creases in space. They're not getting upfield quickly with the ball in their hands in the screen game. I know you can't completely cut out the screen game, but the Bucs probably called 3 screens last night that had they should have executed better. They didn't.
Ronald Jones 5.8 yards per catch, and then you look at Fournette 6.3. So I mean,
both those numbers are just terrible for a running.
Well, the Buccaneers should have drafted a running back in the 3rd round this year. That would have solved all of their trouble.
So,
where's Keyshawn Vaughn all of a sudden, right?
But this is a good point, honestly. This is a good point, because what the Bucs needed this offseason was a back that could catch the football consistently. What did Bruce Arians tell us at the Combine? He said the biggest thing he scouts, the most important thing to him, is a back that can catch the football consistently. Right. They went out in the offseason and they knew it was a need. They looked at LaShawn McCoy and they brought him, and they looked at Fournette and they brought him, and they looked at Keyshawn Vaughn and they drafted him in the 3rd round. And none of those guys have been the answer to that problem. So it wasn't a problem of the Bucs knew what they needed. They knew what they were trying to get. They got all the wrong players for the role. I mean, Fournette might be capable, but there's nobody on this team that's above average in the passing game. And that would have been helpful, I think. I don't think it's the end of the world. I just think it would have been helpful, and it wasn't good scouting.
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk. I've got to ask Douglas O'Connor in the chat, who's yelling at me that I've interrupted 4 times. So, Douglas, is it okay if I speak now?
Douglas is always in here.
Yeah, I know. He's a good dude on Twitter too. But here's the problem though with that is the best running backs were gone. I mean, they were just gone. So, or would you rather have Antoine Winfield Jr. or would you rather have?
I would rather have JJ Taylor. Arizona running back.
And the guy the Bucs wanted was Antonio Gibson out of Memphis. That's the guy that really broke their heart when he went to the Redskins, a couple spots ahead of them. That's the guy they really wanted. He would have been a perfect fit for this offense.
Well, we do have to talk about the secondary a little bit, right?
Because let's do it.
So a couple people have asked about what do we somebody asked, let's see if I can find it here and throw it up on the screen, but I saw somebody ask, what exactly is going on in the secondary? Is Jamel Dean, was he really as bad as he looked last night, or were the announcers blowing it up and making it seem worse?
He was terrible. He was Seattle terrible, except Russell Wilson wasn't the quarterback.
I almost tweeted that. I haven't tweeted my drafts, Mark. I swear I do.
And we have been touting, you got to get Dean on the field. Just put him in. enough of this keeping him off the field. Just put Murphy
Put him in
Bunting
base,
into the slot.
right?
Holy crap. Now maybe we know why he hasn't been in that position, because I'm telling you, it was going to be a Seattle game if Daniel Jones wasn't a terrible quarterback.
Yeah, and the struggle is that Sean Murphy Bunting wasn't very good either, and he saw his role diminish significantly. He played 38 snaps. He went from 100% snaps a game guy to playing just over 50, in this game. And they were more 3 safety looks. They were clearly prioritizing, Sean Murphy Bunting below some other guys. Mike Edwards, 20 snaps, other than the Broncos game where he stepped in for an injury. That was his most snaps of the season. I think the Broncos, honestly, what the Bucs are moving toward is Antoine Winfield playing some more slot snaps, playing a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage. Mike Edwards playing more deep. Jordan Whitehead playing in some sheltered role and / getting him and Murphy Bunting off the field or using them situationally. I think you could see one guy used more than the other, but they've recognized, I think, what I wrote about this past week, that I wrote about, you got to get Jamel Dean and Mike Edwards on the field more, and Sean Murphy Bunting and Jordan Whitehead on the field less. They can still play, but you have to figure out the matchups each week, and you have to prioritize getting your best guys on the field. And I still feel great about it with Mike Edwards. Jamel Dean had a tough game. I still want to ride with him, though.
Yeah, and to your point, you look at the snap counts. Mike Edwards, 20 plays last night, and Jamel Dean didn't come off the field. I mean, he and Carlton Davis were on the field every single down. They played 74 snaps on defense. Sean Murphy Bunting had his most reduced role of the year, playing just 51% of the snaps. He logged 38 plays out there. But I think you're right. I think you're going to see a little bit more Mike Edwards and a little bit less Sean Murphy Bunting, because Edwards can also play, in addition to safety, he can also play some nickel, or he can play free safety, and you move Antoine Winfield to the nickel role too. So there's versatility there that they can. Todd Bowles can use those players in different roles.
Well, there's a ton of negativity toward Jamel Dean right now, though. Like, I think they made the right decision.
That's one game, folks.
No, I think it was the right decision. He didn't need to come off the field last night because he didn't cover anybody. He just kind of stood there and let guys run by him. Had he been chasing all those guys that ran by him, then yeah, he might have needed a breather. But it's so weird. This guy is so strange, man. He's strange in the locker room, Scott. Dressing up in Halloween costumes before that Seattle game last year.
He was
follow him on social media. I like the guy. He's uber talented, you know what I mean? But he's just got to get lassoed in, focused in, whatever you want to call it, because he just has these lapses sometimes, man, where he gets caught looking at the quarterback or peeking in the backfield, and guys
Sean Murphy Bunting too last night, especially on the touchdown. You could tell from that angle he just was looking, and all of a sudden it's not good when the wide receiver, what's the phrase? If you're even, you're leaving, right?
Yeah.
So it's not good.
But I thought Louis Riddick made a great point. Damn it. And this frustrates me watching Florida State a lot, because I think their defensive backs are coached so poorly. You have the end line, right? The guy can't catch the ball 7 rows in the stands. That is an extra defender. You've got to use that. You've got to run to the boundary. There's no need to ever stop and pull up when you got a guy running by you towards the goalpost or towards the end of the end zone. Use that as help. It's frustrating to me to see those guys, making simple, basic mistakes that, Scott, you taught your cornerbacks in youth football. I mean, use the boundary, use the end line. As help. That's an extra defender for you. But anyway, again, I think on my couch and in my boxers, eating Doritos, and I've got cheese all over my fingers while Jamel Dean's running around out there. Yeah, it's Sean Murphy Bunting's
running,
coming up with interceptions.
He said he wasn't running and he wasn't tired.
Yeah, at least you're manscaped, sitting in there in your boxers. So
you got that right. My balls have never been so toned.
And speaking of that, just to let you know, because if you listen to our post-game podcast, Manscaped is one of our sponsors. We're giving away T-shirts to the first 10 signups. We've already had 5 from that show, so we have 5 T-shirts left to give. So if you go to Manscaped, make a purchase there, sign up for Manscaped, and mention the promo code Pewter, you're going to get 20% off plus free shipping. We're not going to do the whole spiel because that's just for post-game podcast. But we do have this offer. So all you have to do is once you sign up, email me at sr@pewterreport.com, sr@pewterreport.com, and send me the emailed order that you get. It doesn't have any of your financial information on it, but it does have your address where we can send the T-shirt. Then we'll have Allison get in contact with you, and you can pick out what color t-shirt you want and the size. So manscaped.com, we got 5 more t-shirts to give away. It makes a great gift for yourself or a loved one with the holidays coming up.
And you know what? You don't have to just manscape with it. I actually shaved my back. I don't know if you guys can see this. You can shave your back with the Manscaped thing.
Thankfully, I can't.
Yeah, we can't see that, and that's a good thing. So
I carved SR in my chest hair.
Please don't do that.
Why.
That's
It's
not appropriate.
Too late, buddy.
Or welcomed.
I'll show it off next episode.
HR is going to hear from Scott.
Yeah.
Well, Scott is HR. You don't know that, do you, yet, John?
SR and SR is also HR. You're right. I am human resources. So
yeah.
Small company.
Other important thing to remember about Jamel Dean, though, in that conversation is that I just think in the NFL, corners get beat. I mean, I think that fans got to understand it. Like, everybody gets beat. Now, you can't get beat as many times as he did last night, and you can't give up as many big plays as he should have last night if Daniel Jones was accurate. That's 100% true. But nobody's coming out here and not allowing a catch. I mean, what Stephon Gilmore did last year was crazy, and what Stephon Gilmore is doing this year is looking like an ordinary corner. And that's what, honestly, he's been a good corner most of his career. He was unbelievable last year, but it hardly ever lasts a corner. Like, almost always you end up getting beat because the passing game is just that hard. So you got to find guys that make plays on the ball. You got to find guys that don't kill you. And that's what I mean about not giving up big plays. He can't continue to do that. That's absolutely true and accurate.
Right.
We can criticize him for that while still saying the larger sample size of Jamel Dean over now almost a year's worth of games has been really good. And I'd rather see him play poorly for a longer stretch of time before I'm ready to condemn him, because he's just got too much talent and he's made too many splash plays for this team. And what are they going to do? Like, go back to Sean Murphy. We've seen how Sean Murphy bunting that ship sails, and there's no question Dean has more upside, and
Ryan
there's not another
Smith,
option.
What are you thinking, John?
Another ship that we've
Is
seen.
Matthew Wilkins still on the team? I don't know. You know who doesn't get beat, guys? You know who can't be beat in the Tampa Bay area?
Ooh, tell us.
My good friends at Briar Greaves. They just can't be beat for the best coverages, the widest variety of coverage, whether it's commercial, whether it's personal, whether it's your auto, whether it's life insurance. Any type of insurance, they can do it. They've been in business for over 30 years, family owned and operated. Briar Greaves, his son Sam, terrific people. I actually dealt with them last week on a minor claim that I've got on an outdoor building of mine. Immediately after emailing Sam, I got a quick call and an email, and the process has already been started. That's how good they are. They take care of their customers, and they do a great job. If you need insurance, make sure to give them a call. You can reach them, or you can stop by their office on Henderson, or you can reach them over at 813-876-4166. Again, 813-876-4166. You can also visit them online at BriarGreavesInsurance.com. Give them a call. They're big Buccaneer fans. They love to talk Buccaneer football, but more importantly, they'll make sure you, your family, your home, your business, your auto, even if you've got some dresses, like they insured Princess Diana's dresses when they traveled the country a few years ago. I mean, look, if Westminster Abbey calls and wants insurance on dresses for Princess Diana, the least you can do is call and get a quote on your homeowners, your life, or your auto policy. Again, Briar Greaves, our good friends. Give them a call. Tell them you are a listener to the Pewter Report podcast. 813-876-4166.
And Mark, guess who is the newest Briar Greaves insurance customer?
I wonder. I was wondering when John was going to sign up.
No, me.
Oh,
me.
you. You finally called?
Yes. I did. I called, and I talked with Briar and Sam last week. They reviewed my policy, and guess what they did? Save me money. Yes, I get pretty much the exact same policy. My previous insurance company was overselling me on a couple of things. They were charging me a little bit too much, and Briar said, "Hey, I think you can dial it back here a little bit and save some money." And I was like, "Heck yeah, let's do it."
Well, they're good people, and they've been my personal insurance for my homeowners for years.
And now they're mine.
They do a terrific job. Now they're Scott's. We just got to get John to maybe give a call at some point.
If I get down there, I'm telling you, they're going to be first call, no doubt about it. I promise. We'll have another one of these.
I'm pretty sure they can sell you life insurance up in Pennsylvania.
That's true. That's true.
Give them a call. And
I got to pull that trigger.
Insurance, I tell people all the time, everybody needs some type of insurance. Everybody either owns a home, a car, has a life that they want to insure, all of those things. So there is a need for every one of our listeners right now to give a call, even from Ipan Yaman from Turkey. Give them a call. Don't call and collect from Turkey, though. You'll have to just be on your dime, of course.
Yeah. Speaking of foreign countries, I did want to recognize, and I'm not saying that Dara O'Brien's necessarily from a foreign country, but I'm guessing by the name and the fact that it's 5 pounds that we probably have an international fan. So thank you very much.
I would say Ireland. Is it Ireland?
I would think
Ireland.
that the
seems
UK
like a safe bet.
Safe bet, yeah, for sure. So I love the new podcast format, and John has been a great addition. I think this gives us a quick opportunity to briefly run down our typical week. Our typical week is a post-game podcast on Sunday night after the game. Then we have the Monday wrap-up show where we hear from Bruce Arians and the players they make available to us. Then we take Tuesday off, and
4
then
p.m. 4 p.m. Eastern. Yeah.
Yes, 4 p.m. on Mondays and 4 p.m. on Wednesdays. We have our preview podcast where we talk about the next week's game, and then John usually flies solo, but with a guest. In this additional type of preview, maybe Bucs centric, maybe opponent centric, and that's also usually, if it's East Coast time, usually 4 o'clock on Thursday. So 4 o'clock is kind of our time. This week, though, however, the game being last night, we're going to have another podcast tomorrow, 4 o'clock. That's our preview show, and we got one today at 4 o'clock. So 4 o'clock Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week. And then we'll kind of go back to our normal schedule as the Buccaneers go back to Sunday games. But there'll be that Rams game coming up on Monday night. In a couple weeks, we'll do the exact same thing. Have a post-game podcast Monday night, and then do Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in a row at 4 o'clock. So,
and if the Buccaneers sign any more troubled, crazy, nutty guys like they did with Antonio Brown, then John will do an emergency one on Friday night.
That's
like
right.
He did a couple
That's
weeks
right.
ago.
Yeah. We even bring you emergency content here at pewterreport.com and on the Pewter Report podcast.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate
love
it.
you. Appreciate you.
Thanks,
we
Greg.
got
Greg,
our last question.
Say, Greg is Greg may be the big. I don't want to say this because people will get mad, but he is absolutely one of the biggest Bucs fans and Pewter Report fans out there. He is all over Twitter on game day, all throughout the week. He listens to us on 620. He listens to our radio interviews. He does a great job. He is in Canada. And he usually comes down. This year he hasn't been able to do that because of the travel restrictions and things like that. So he'll have to double up and come for 2 games next year. Anyway, shout out to Greg. And stop complaining about my screen being blurry. We've already discussed this. You don't understand, guys.
Keep
you
firing
want
away with those
blurry.
super chats, and we're going to get some better camera equipment all the way around.
That's right. All super chat donations will go to Mark for a new camera.
There we go.
All right.
All right, here we go. Let's go, Dragon Low.
Another
Here
one.
we go.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
We got to close out this show with a big question as we get ready for a 4-game stretch, which will, I think, in a lot of people's minds, tell us where the Bucs should rank. Should they be considered a top 5, a top 3, a top 2 team in the NFL right now? A lot of people saying they're the best team in the NFL, at least before their narrow victory over the Giants last night or Monday Night Football. Now, the question then becomes, where should they rank in the NFC? Let's just focus on the NFC for a second and think about where they should rank in this conference, because this conference is a complete mystery right now. I mean, Green Bay goes out and loses to Minnesota after they got drilled by the Bucs, and everybody, okay, there's some weird things happened in that game, but still, they got drilled by the Bucs. That was concerning enough. You go out and lose to Minnesota, and for most of that game, it wasn't that close either. I mean, Minnesota's struggling mightily. They're offloading guys. They're starting 5th and 6th stringers in the secondary, and the Packers aren't making it work. It just seems like consistency is hard for the Packers. Seattle can't stop anyone. Nick Mullins comes in the game and lights it up. I'm not saying he almost won the game for him. Maybe I took it too far when I tweeted that earlier, but he brought them back in a game they had no business being in. I mean, they've barely beaten a lot of bad teams this season. They can't defend the pass, and they don't have a pass rush, and that's a problem. But their offense, unbelievable. I think that's one of the best offenses, maybe the best one in the league, and Russell Wilson's an elite player. The Saints, Drew Brees does not throw the ball down the field. I mean, going into this week's game, I haven't checked since it, but he had 9 pass attempts of 20 yards or more on the season. That's like what Brady has in a game. I mean, that's ridiculous. The whole section of the field is off limits to them. Michael Thomas has had issues there. The defense has been terrible so far this season. the pass rush hasn't been what they hoped it would be. They're getting some guys back healthy. I think the Saints' best football might be ahead of them still, but where do the Bucs rank in this NFC? Mark, we'll start with you and then go over to Scott. Where do you think the Bucs should rank in the NFC right now? Doesn't mean they'll be there at the end of the year, but where do you think they should rank in this up and down NFC right now?
I want to see what happens on Sunday. They have to beat the bully. The Saints have had the Buccaneers numbers for 4 straight games. The last time the Buccaneers beat the Saints, Ryan Fitzpatrick was your quarterback. Jameis Winston was suspended. That's the last time. And the games since then really honestly haven't been that close. Sometimes the scores are a little closer than the game actually indicates. The Saints thoroughly beat the Buccaneers in week 1 this year. And earlier this season. I think it's Seattle 1A, the Saints 2A. And I say the Saints because until somebody dethrones them, they're still the champs in my opinion. But you can't just look at it on paper. The Buccaneers are as good as any team in the entire NFL. But we've got to look at it in terms of matchups. We talked about it with that Pittsburgh game on Sunday, John. The Buccaneers do not, in my opinion, would not match up well at all with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, if you just strictly on paper, you look at the two teams, I think the Buccaneers are a little bit better. But the way the Steelers play, their mentality, and the matchups, the Steelers are a better football team. And right now, I think the Saints are a better football team than the Bucs based on the way that they play and the fact that they're physical up front. And they've just been able to, take care of the Buccaneers with ease. And every time they do it, it's more and more confidence. I heard Cam Jordan on an interview with Dan Patrick this morning. He is a guy that he just doesn't believe they're going to lose. And they just got this mentality and this attitude that they're better than the Buccaneers. And until the Buccaneers beat them, I'm going to say the Saints are a little bit better. The Seahawks are just incredibly talented offensively. And but after that, I would say the Bucs are the third best team.
At least Scott, what do you think?
Mark, I agree with everything you said. And I'll make one little caveat. The Saints have beaten the Buccaneers, but in all of those games, all of those Saints wins over the Buccaneers, the Bucs have also beat themselves. Let's rewind back to week 1, right? We had the pick 6 from Tom Brady. We had another interception that game from Brady. The Buccaneers
had jumping off sides.
Yeah.
That would still burns my
ear. In that game, they had 9 penalties for 103 yards. Okay,
yeah.
So that week 1 Buccaneer team, you're going to lose to the Saints probably twice a year, every year, if you play like that. What I've liked from this Buccaneer team is since the Bears game, and we heard Bruce Arians say it again today, the Bears game, they had 11 penalties, 109 yards. We saw the turnovers in Chicago. And since then, the Buccaneers had 0 penalties against the Packers, 4 penalties for 20 yards against the Raiders, 3 penalties, 20 yards against the Giants. This has become a much more disciplined football team all of a sudden. They're not turning the ball over. They're not having the penalties that aid good teams like the Saints in beating the Bucs. So when it's the Bucs versus the Saints, right now, I like the Bucs. But if it's Bucs versus the Saints and themselves, which is what it's been like the last couple of years with this undisciplined football team, then, I think the Saints still have the crown. And I like you, Mark. I'm kind of like that Ric Flair, mantra. If you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And so it's put up or shut up time for the Buccaneers. They've got to take care of business on Sunday night and beat the Saints to truly have a stranglehold on that NFC South title. And I think they can do it as long as they stay in this lane of not beating themselves. Because I like what I've seen so far from this team that doesn't have these self-inflicted wounds, John.
And they got to keep their head against the Saints too, because it is the Buccaneers' most fierce rivalry. I don't care what people say about Atlanta or the Panthers. These two teams dislike each other. Cam Jordan talking smack when Donovan Smith got his new contract a couple years ago. I mean, they just don't like each other. Mike Evans, we know what's happened in those games in the past. Even Jameis Winston popping Lattimore in the back of the head on the sideline, I think it was. I mean, don't allow the Saints to get the Buccaneers out of their game and become that penalty machine. You know what I mean? Bad things are going to happen. The Saints are going to score some points. Alvin Kamara is probably going to have a better game than he did in week 1. But if they play their game, they can absolutely, in my opinion, they can definitely. I'm not picking them yet, but they can beat the Saints.
No. So Scott, you would say that the Bucs are what rank in the NFCs? We're the mid-season point. So where do you think right now would you rank them in the NFC?
In the NFC, I still think they're the class of the league. The only team that scares me is really Seattle, just because of Russell Wilson. At any given moment, he can have one of those 375-yard, 4 touchdown days, and he can have another touchdown on the ground and rush for 70 yards. Right? He's just that X factor. That's the other team that really concerns me. Not so much from the defensive side, John. I agree with you, but Russell Wilson. When you look at the MVP race right now, it really, in my opinion, it's 3 guys. It's Russell Wilson, it's Tom Brady, and it's Patrick Mahomes right now. I think those 3 quarterbacks are playing at that NFL MVP caliber level right now.
Not Nick Foles.
Not Nick Foles. No, I think that you guys are right. I think that Seattle's the only team that I would take. I put them over the Bucs today when I tweeted out my power rankings. But honestly, you could convince me either way. I mean, Bucs clearly have a better defense most weeks, and I think that does matter some. But I do give the edge offensively to Seattle, not talent-wise, but just based on execution. Seattle has been so good at executing on offense this season. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. They throw the ball on early downs all the time. Brian Schottenheimer has suddenly transformed into a pass-heavy coach. They have let Russell Wilson cook. He has delivered and been absolutely magnificent. They hit big plays down the field. They have tons of weapons. They can mount 10-play drives. They can hit shot play drives, and score in a play. So I think they're would say they're the best team in the NFC, but I think they can absolutely be beaten by several teams behind them. They already lost to Arizona in a game they absolutely should not have lost to because they can't defend. And so that matters. And I think the Bucs do have that edge. If the Bucs consistently don't beat themselves, they're the best team in the NFC, though. I don't think there's any question about that. If they play to their potential and they don't beat themselves, I think they're the best team in the NFC. But you're right, that has to be sustained. And last night gives me pause on saying that they're past that point. And until they prove it really in this slate of games coming up, I don't think they have to win all 4. You're playing great teams. I get that. No, I don't think they have to win all 4 of these games coming up, but I think that they need to win. They need to win 3 of them. I think that winning them and also playing well in them and playing clean football, not beating yourself, I think that's important when it comes to these matchups against premier opponents. And the Saints game is going to be the first step.
To your point, I think that this is going to be a playoff caliber game on Sunday Night Football, right, against the Saints. And then you're going to have another playoff caliber game, I think, with the Rams coming up on Monday Night Football in 2 weeks after that. And then you're going to have another playoff caliber game against the Chiefs. So I think those 3 matchups are important because you mentioned Seattle, John, and the thing about Seattle is they're playoff tested, right? They make the playoffs every year as the division champion or a wild card, and that's where they would have the edge over the Buccaneers come January. So I think for the Buccaneers in this young team that doesn't have any playoff experience outside of guys like Brady and Gronk and Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul, they need to play well in these games because these are playoff caliber games. And if they play well in these games coming up in November, I think it could bode well for them in January.
I agree with that. One other thing on the Kamara, and a lot of people are mentioning it in the chat too. You got to stop him first and foremost. The one thing the Buccaneers defense, we were talking about weaknesses earlier, is finding those running backs coming out of the backfield. When you blitz, as Todd Bowles likes to do, that's when a guy like Drew Brees is going to slip Alvin Kamara out of the backfield, and that's when you can be gouged because then everything is man on man. And if the guy covering Kamara doesn't get to him or gets blocked, then it could turn into a big play. So stop him.
Wait, you're talking about the guy covering Kamara? You mean Devin White, the guy that gave up a touchdown last night to Deion Lewis?
Yes. And again, I was talking to my son about that. That was if Daniel Jones makes that throw 100 times, I don't know that he completes it more than one time. I mean, It was just the most perfect throw.
Great throw.
Devin White was all over him. Deion sliding to make the catch. I mean, it was as much of a fluke to me as the Ronald Jones fumble. Doesn't matter. It counted as 7 points. Well, 6 and an extra point, of course.
Yeah.
Anyway, somebody also said that it looks like my house is on fire. I should get out of here. That's just not true. That is not smoke. No, I'm not even going to get into the glaucoma talk. But no, it's not smoke. There's been no smoking in the house, and it's not on fire that I know of. But I will get out. There's a window close. But I'll get a better camera at some point.
Speaking of getting out, we got to get out of here, guys. We really appreciate you joining us, and we'll be back tomorrow at 4 o'clock previewing the Saints game and really kind of getting in depth. So bring your Saints Bucs questions and comments and super chats. We love those. and we will help get new camera equipment for the Pewter Report podcast. Starting with Mark, apparently that's where you want the first new camera to go to is Mr. Cook. So,
and I'm doing the first show I'm going nude. You guys want to see me in HD? You're going to see me manscaped in the nude the entire show.
Kill it. Now, throw it to break.
Granted, I'll stay below the table, but anyway,
there you
just
go.
Kidding.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
That's what HR would recommend. So,
and SR, and JL and MM and TJ as well. Yeah. All right, for John Ledyard, Scott Reynolds, I'm Mark Cook saying we will see you tomorrow on Wednesday with another edition of the Pewter Report podcast.
Out.